It seems every year we can update our tech, our phones, computers, cameras, TVs, the list goes on. But that might be about to change. Could we see the gap between new releases increase? Could we see products being announced every 18 months or even every 2 years? Let's jump into it and see what's going on. Now, the reason I created this video was because of this article by Bloomberg a couple of weeks ago. I'll leave the link to it in the description so you can have a look for yourself. But the main body of the story talked about Apple and how they could move away from yearly product releases. By the way, having longer release times is not a new thing for Apple to do. We've seen this with the likes of the MacBooks be more sporadic over the years, and it could be that Apple as a company may just move their iPhones to follow suit. Or they could just keep September as their iPhone date, just like Christmas comes in December every year. But it got me thinking about how a story like this comes about. But there are a few things I've noticed, so let's have a look. Now, I can't be the only one to notice that there's been a slowdown in advances in technology. Phones seem to be the same every year. Big camera companies like Sony and Canon release products that are just a little bit better than the previous iterations. That big screen TV that you're looking at apparently is light years better than the last. But I personally don't see the difference. And it's definitely an industry-wide thing that we don't see massive upgrades year on year. The new iPhone announcement in September was, well, rather underwhelming, and I was trying to remember when I was last truly excited about an iPhone release. And I think for me it was the iPhone 10, and that was released in 2017. Just out of interest, let me know what iPhone you were last excited about. Drop it in the comments, because I'm really intrigued. Ever since the iPhone 10, I think we've only seen small upgrades year on year, and fundamentally, it's the same phone. Then you look at the 2024 version. Really? Is the addition of a camera button enough in 2024 for us to buy the new iPhone? Is a slightly better camera going to convince you to buy the 2024 version over the cheaper 2023 iPhone? It would seem that technology has hit, well, a technological bottleneck. And it's not just happening in the phone market. It's so hard for companies in the modern world to keep up. On this channel, I talk about cameras, and I recently spoke about firms seeing product delays due to parts shortages. And there is just so much technology being produced worldwide. So many more companies are pulling on world resources, and it would make sense for a company like Apple to relax its yearly schedule to meet their internal deadlines. It would also ensure that customer confidence is maintained, and this goes for the likes of Sony and Canon too. Now, I started using cameras back in the analog days. The tech inside was just to make the machine work. Now, increasingly, these cameras are more reliant on software and AI. But what does that mean for the future? Well, it could mean longer periods between releases, but most of us will probably decide to skip generations basically because we don't see the tiny hardware update or slightly redesigned body being worth the money. At the moment, we just don't see the big strides we once did, and increasingly over the past few years, we've seen a new protagonist enter the debate. The Bloomberg story also highlighted how Apple could move away from its strict yearly updates, as we've mentioned, and it was pointed out that the delays in Apple releasing AI was an embarrassment to the company. A huge world leader in tech had to put back a feature that underpinned their new iPhone, declaring that the new product was built from the ground up with AI in mind, only not to include Apple Intelligence from day one, and saying you'll get it later. But the fear in the industry is that this sort of delay could become commonplace. That's unless companies change how they work. If they don't, consumer confidence could be hit. So therefore, company profits will suffer. But the iPhone and other products could just follow others in the Apple lineup not to have yearly updates. The Apple Watch Ultra 2, apart from maybe a matte black version, was not updated in 2024. The AirPods Pro 2s only had a minor update this year, and there wasn't really outrage from consumers. But modern tech and how companies release it has been, well, trying to find its way for some time. For example, the days before the internet, the games industry needed to really nail the code in any title created. There was no updating it once the game had been shipped, and there was no time for slip-ups. But the principle was, get it right. But with updates and patches becoming commonplace now, a games company will do everything they can to reach the shipping deadline and think about patches at a later date, because it will be okay. But that it'll be okay attitude has really allowed standards to fall, and that's something that the hardware manufacturers need to be aware of. If they let standards slip and deadlines slip, the result could be a consumer confidence slip. And if Apple, one of the biggest companies on the planet, are seeing deadlines miss more often, it's not good for the overall optics, both from a consumer point of view and the financial. So to conclude, I feel that companies are really feeling the pressure to meet the demands of the consumers to really take those technological leaps. Things like leaps in resolution, in speed, leaps in power, all of which are not sustainable in 2024 and beyond. Tech is so intricate and complicated these days that the simplicity of the 80s and 90s are long gone. You never know, maybe there is a technological revolution along the way to solve the current issues and innovation. Could AI save the day? Who knows? But the fact that stories like the Bloomberg article are circulating means that there are issues worldwide, and it could be that we're hitting a technology bottleneck. But it could just be a sign that we're just going to have to be more patient with our technological leaps, and the small incremental steps that we've seen over the last few years just aren't cutting it. But what I can say at this juncture is I, for one, in a world of minor upgrades, won't be changing my tech every year.